Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, hashtag ODPH podcast. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us in studio, making his triumphant return, you know him from the ODPH Comics blog, it's Bry Guy Signal.
Yes, like the Jedi and the King, I have returned.
Absolutely. We got a lot to cover in the land of entertainment, so hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Join in the conversation because, hey, we want to hear from you. Dare I say, any bigger story going on right now than Game of Thrones?
In the immediate time, no.
Right. 17.4 million viewers that we know of, at least, is being reported multiple sites.
17.4 million legal viewings.
Right. Tuned in yesterday as we were recording to see the triumphant return of Season 8 of Game of Thrones and the Plan of Westeros. Pad, lead us off, break it down, and we are going to be talking spoilers.
Well, first of all, we just want to say, if you have no interest in Game of Thrones, you don't watch, you don't care for it, if you look in the description of today's show, the show notes, there will be a timestamp of when you can jump forward to that will just completely skip you over the Game of Thrones recap, because, hey, we understand not everybody watches it, not everyone really cares for it, so, hey, we're thinking of you.
Oh, nice job, Pat.
So leading off with the opening, beginning Season 8, final big season premiere of Game of Thrones, we find that, Daenerys is being led back to Winterfell with Jon Snow. Dragons are flying overhead. And as we find out very quickly, Winterfell ain't exactly happy about it.
No, definitely not. Sansa Stark is leading the charge of not exactly welcoming Daenerys with open arms.
Yeah, and that's not exactly good when... I'm with, if you watch the episode, I'm fully with John in the sense it's like, okay, can we stop bitching about who did what in the past when we have a zombie army approaching us?
Because at this point, they find out rather quickly that the White Walkers have broken through the wall, that they're on their way.
Which, what I do love is the opening is how it is tracking where the Army of the Dead is. Like, if you watch, it was approaching Last Hearth in the beginning.
Yep.
I have a feeling when next week's episode airs, it's going to show the blue of the army marching. It's going to be right at Winterfell's doorstep, I have a feeling.
I love that little effect, which shout out to whoever produced or made the intro for the Game of Thrones of this year. They updated, re-updated it. I realize it's computer animated, it's computer generated. It looks real as all get out. And I love that what you mentioned, the little kind of creeping ice thing as it was coming down. I feel like that's something they should have done from the start. It would have been a good visual representation of, all right, listen, this is how close they are.
Yeah, I have to fully agree.
Or even just armies in general. Like when the War of the Five Kings was going on, be like, okay, here's where Stannis' army's going. Here's where Robb Stark's army's going. It's like, that would have been really cool.
No, yeah.
And as we see the episodes progressing, to kick back off the season and going into the final season, it almost seemed like it was the happy reunion that the moments that, if you've been following the show for the 7 previous seasons, you wanted to see moments where characters finally meet after a long hiatus, so to say.
I was going to say my big one was I loved seeing Jon and Arya reunite because those two always got along and everything from the start, which, speaking of also like the reunion and whatnot, I loved the parody that they did, or you don't really know if it's a parody when it's your own show. It was like a repeat of when Robert Baratheon arrived in Winterfell in the first season. Like the music was the same.
Yes.
The way they're doing camera angles and how everyone's lined up. Like it was very much like, okay, now we have we have the new ruler coming this time.
I love the reunions they did because it's such a large show in terms of size, compass, and characters where. Jon and Arya, you mentioned, that's a meeting or a reunion that like I hadn't realized or remembered they hadn't seen each other since like episode 1 of season 1. Then I'm like, oh, that's right, they haven't seen each other. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he got because I re-binged season 7 to get ready for it. He gets like a note when he's on Dragonstone and he's just like tells Daenerys, he just says out loud, he's like, I thought Arya and Bran were dead.
Right.
Yeah, so when you start seeing these moments finally coming together, I mean, for us as loyal fans that we've been watching since day one, these are really having the impact moments. I mean, my personal favorite was Jaime and Bran.
Awkward.
Just for the sheer awkwardness of obviously what happened, because
it's more awkward on Jaime's part because Bran was just, I think, waiting for him. He's like, oh, it's like I'm waiting for an old friend. He's looking at him like, hi, and like Jaime's like, crap, the first guy I have to run into is you.
Yeah, the first guy he runs into when he gets to Winterfell by himself is Bran, and it's like, it's already awkward enough for him, and this is through no fault on Bran's part, it's just who Bran is as a character now. Bran is deadpanning the man hard. That like it's so hard to read that. Like, we know how he feels because we are third person viewers in this universe. Like, we know what's going on everywhere at any given time. But Jaime doesn't. He doesn't know what's happened with Bran. He doesn't know why he is the way he is. That's not him deadpanning him because you mother. It's just who he is, but it's brilliant.
I was gonna say Bran's social skills since he became the Three-Eyed Raven came back south of the wall. Not great.
Yeah, a little lacking.
No, definitely
Human
not.
resources is not a career option for him anymore.
No, definitely not. And he's sitting there and just taking in everything. And obviously he knows a lot that's happening.
He knows everything.
Right. Because he's from where he started with episode 1.
I thought that was Tyrion's job.
So he says.
With some wine.
So he says.
Well, that's what Tyrion says, but Bran is the one who's actually doing it because he is all the information that's going on that everybody should know about. And he decides to start pushing one Samwell Tarly into dropping the biggest bombshell on Jon Snow, and definitely
you're sleeping with your aunt, Jon.
Yeah, yes. I'm a little surprised, not upset, but I'm a little surprised they addressed this as soon as they did. It's almost, I was expecting them to address it, but not the first episode of season 1. I figured the first episode would be, all right, we got to get everybody together. We got to get everybody to cooperate, first of all.
It was also, I agree with you on that, and I also agree with the fact it's like if you look at it, it's not just, okay, they deal with the first episode. It's literally the first conversation he has when he's reunited with Jon. It's like Sam's just like, he's like, no, your father is Rhaegar. And Jon's like, no, Ned's my dad. He's like, Ned lied because Robert would have killed you.
And to spin off of that, it was also awkward when you had Ser Jorah Mormont, Varys, and Tyrion discussing what to do after the war, after the Night King and the
it was Sir Davos.
Oh, thank you, Sir Davos. They were discussing, what to do after the war is over, and they're like, oh, well, we've got a woman that people like. Well, what if she was married to a very brave and honorable man? And the rest of us as viewers are sitting there going, oh, Lord have mercy.
Right, because obviously this is one of the biggest undertones or understories that has been going on, should I say, since last season, of what's going on with Jon Snow and Daenerys, and obviously with their now family history going to be exposed. And I think one thing that they were doing is, especially since there's only 6 episodes this season,
they're not holding back.
And they're speeding through a lot of things.
Yeah,
but it doesn't feel rushed. That's the thing I like about it. It's kind of like, no, we've built up for this in the past seasons.
Now
it's here.
This is very much something that I think if it was introduced in an earlier season 1, season 2, it's something that like would have been brought up, would have been mentioned, and then kind of left there for eagle-eyed or very memory. Fans with a good memory to go, oh, hey, I remember that, and then they bring it up later. But no, this is something like, hey, we brought it up in one episode, and the very next one, we're going to address this thing.
Well, right, because obviously this is going to play an important factor moving forward, because obviously the Night King and his army did not make a very big appearance on the show, but they did make a very big statement on the show this week. He's
one of those villains in media history. I'm not even saying TV. I'm talking movies, books, comics, video games, anything that can have a huge impact and make a big statement and have 0 minutes of screen time.
I was gonna say it's a good one. Good analogies like for those of you who liked Avatar: Last Airbender. You didn't know who the heck you didn't ever meet the main villain until the last season, but you just knew. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's like the big bad of the entire thing.
Yeah,
right. So obviously when he makes his appearance and makes his statement, it definitely rung some bells throughout viewers.
Yeah.
Do you want to break down that?
No, yeah. So we meet back where the wildlings, free folk, who were kind of manning the wall, and they escaped after the wall had been destroyed at the end of last season, are coming up on a castle. Rather haggard-looking castle. The doors are blown off the hinges. There's blood everywhere. It's bodies hanging everywhere, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So they start making their way through the castle, and they hear something, and I'm like, and at this point I know I was sitting there watching with you, Ken, and I'm like, something's in that castle, and I'm not entirely sure it's a person.
That's, right. I think, not to cut you off, that's like the other stressful part is like I was stressing out that scene because it's like Tormund's there and it's like, this is the last season. Is he actually making it out of this castle alive right now?
Because the sounds that were being made weren't a person walking. It was like, if you ever see some sort of horror movie where like a stone drops and you hear it, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a person. What in the world is in this? So they make their way through the castle and they go down and down and down. And at the, they round the corner, they do the trick where they light the swords on fire, getting ready to fight the dead. And who do they find but the remaining forces of the Night's Watch?
Right. And obviously the statement was made that the Night King is progressing forward, and he definitely wanted to make his presence felt.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, and then like they're all worried because it's like, well, if he's already hit here, that means he's on to Winterfell next. It's like we're not going to be able to warn anyone. And so that's when Gren of the Night's Watch is like, if we double up on horses, we can probably beat them.
Right.
Which leads into what I think is going to happen at the end of next episode is, if you've seen the trailer shots, there's a part where like, okay, the army is all lined up at Winterfell and you just see a dead horse's leg hit the ground. I think that's going to be the final shot of next week's episode. Yeah. It is going to be the army's here. Then episode 3 is just straight up, okay, army's here. We don't need to build up. All right. Commence the battle.
So the big message the Night King leaves in this episode is earlier in the episode when Jon was still kind of trying to marshal the last of the North's forces to the area, he was met by a young boy. I'd have to say he was maybe 10 or 11 years old, if that. His name escapes me and I apologize, but he calls this person's name out, and we're expecting some full-grown man to sit forward and tell him what's going on, but no, it's this boy. And he says, oh, we have forces, but we lack the wagons and the horses to get everyone there. We would appreciate it from yourself and milady if you could spare some horses and wagons to get our forces here. And Jon promises, all right, we'll get you as much as we can spare. And the Night's Watch and the free folk, the wildlings go into this room where I presume it was where the king would sit at this castle, and plastered to the wall of this place is that boy,
surrounded by all the limbs of his men.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's, the fun part because they're White Walkers. The little boy is not dead.
Yeah, the little boy's not dead. They light him on fire, and then when the limbs and the boy get lit on fire, a lot of people were making the realization that it was in the shape of the Targaryen symbol, or at least they were making that conclusion.
Right, that's what I was thinking too, that the Night King and every move that he's done so far has definitely been impactful, and he wants to send a direct message. And my theory about this, and this is my strict ODPH theory, you can hit me up on the hashtag, I am thinking that he is somehow either a reflection of Bran, or he might be like a different version of Bran down the road.
Right.
Because obviously with how Bran's character has evolved and he's developed his powers, we just call him flat out, that I'm not too surprised that he has a connection to the Night King, because he knows of how much of a threat he is and how Bran is trying to obviously take this threat out.
Yeah, he clearly knows more than he lets on, because for being a force that just kind of walks and is coming down from the north, you would think they don't really know much. They're just kind of going along and picking up forces along the way. But for him to, send that message and put it in the Targaryen symbol, to me that was I know who you've got and I know what you have going against us. Like, I'm not walking into this blind.
Right. And obviously dealing with what's going on, it's kind of just making more just so much impactful moments that it's just going to finally build up and blow up, that this is where we're seeing. And I believe it was Lord Umber was the character you were thinking of. When he is taken off the board, I mean, he's a minor character on the show per se, but just the fact that the Night King is sending that message, and obviously everybody is finally taking this threat for real, because the one thing about Game of Thrones is this has been so much everybody's plotting against each other, and then the allies are forming, and then you're seeing betrayals and what's such going on.
Right.
And then you still even have that, like we said earlier, it's like Winterfell is still like everyone's at each other's throats when they need to all stand by each other, but they're like, oh yeah, well, we don't like Daenerys, you were supposed to be our king, so we're gonna throw a hissy fit. And it's like, it doesn't matter, people.
Right. Well, and you say everyone is taking the threat for real. Not everyone. Because we see in the episode, Cersei finds out from her right hand that the dead have broken through the wall. They're on their way. And she just pauses and says, good. fully revealing her plan that, she's just got all the forces that are opposed to her are up north. You've got Winterfell, you've got Daenerys, and anybody else aligned with them. So ergo, anyone who's with her is not there. So why do I got to do anything to help them or fight them when I can just let the Night King and his forces do it for me?
But the thing is, I don't think she fully realizes the fact that it's like, okay, yeah, sure, all your enemies are going to die, and there's I don't know how many men they have. They have several hundred. They have several thousand because it says it's the forming of the greatest army Westeros has ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't think she realizes that if the Night King beats the greatest army Westeros has ever seen, the greatest army Westeros has ever seen is going to come marching south with whatever the Night King has.
Yeah, no, she's definitely working with some horse blinders on, if it were, because she sees if they beat them, then I don't have to worry about them, and she makes, and the only plan she's making for this is not even, I'm going to send some forces up there, whatever. No, the only plan she's making is, hey, if they may happen to make it through, here's a crossbow, put it into my, brother Tyrion.
Right. She's making moves for post Night King era. I mean, that's the easiest way to describe it. Because her only ally right now is Euron Greyjoy. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole messy situation that's going to come back down to haunt later.
And then it's going to be really ugly when Jaime, the next episode, is like, he's going to get there and be like, I don't actually have the Lannister army.
Oh, I said that when he walked, because I thought at the beginning with the music that was playing, I thought that was him and the Lannister forces walking out. I didn't even consider that it was Daenerys and her forces. I thought it was Jaime and the Lannister army. Because while he can't really bring up the Royal Guard or anyone from King's Landing, he can, bring up the Lannister Guard from Casterly Rock.
That's what I thought. It's like, I thought he was still going to show up with them because after getting kicked out of the King's Guard, he is Lord of Casterly Rock. Yeah. He's Warden of the West.
Yeah, so I thought...
So it doesn't matter if Cersei doesn't want the Lannister army going. He can still be like, no, I'm your lord, we're going.
Yeah, and so you've got Jon spouting off in the episode, the Lannisters are coming. Daenerys says the Lannisters are coming. He walks in there looking like, somebody who's been traveling on the road by themselves with very little to own. And he walked in, and I said it too, I'm like, he's alone. They're not going to be happy to see him.
Right. And obviously with how much of a powder keg.
And also, I don't know if you guys saw the preview for next week. He's standing trial before Daenerys because she's like, my brother always told me the story of the man who murdered my father. Yeah. And I often had dreams of what I was going to do when I met that man. And he's standing there like, oh, this was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, right. That's why I'm saying, like, Winterfell is such a powder keg right now. Yeah. And it's such a battle internally when the team should be, allied and on a unified page. But when you have Daenerys and obviously setting up the battle with Sansa Stark, that's gonna happen. Yeah. And you can definitely tell there's moments in the show when they're just politely giving shade to each other. We'll word it that way.
Let's put it to this way: Thanksgiving dinner for them is going to be real awkward.
Right. And Jon Snow, who was the king of the North, but he bended on the need for Daenerys to get the army up there.
And immediately, the people who made him king of the North are now like, I don't know what you are anymore. Yeah. Which clearly shows they don't care if he pledged allegiance. I don't think the North is... If even he wedded Daenerys to try to make peace with the North and the South, I don't think... I think they're going to follow Sansa, and if she doesn't want to follow Daenerys, I don't think the North will.
I think he's in a no-win situation no matter what he did. He bends the knee. Okay, like if we're back in time before he decided to bend the knee. All right, he can go to Daenerys and bend the knee. Well, they're not going to like him because it was she's the daughter of the Mad King, and they can remember everything he did. That he can stand there and do nothing, and then it's going to be, why didn't you try to do anything?
Right, he's in a no-win situation.
It's what happened with Tormund Stark, the guy who bent the knee to Aerys, Aegon the Conqueror, like way back when the Seven Kingdoms were formed. His bannermen hated him because he bent the knee to Aegon Targaryen because he was like, okay, this guy has 3 dragons and he's going to just burn my army to shreds. I'm going to keep all my men alive. There's no point fighting a useless battle.
Right. I mean, this is one of those situations where the threat is so real with the Night King that everybody should be getting along together, and they're not doing it. Everybody's just so focused on their own group, they're not seeing the big picture. Yeah. And with Daenerys fighting Sansa, and then, when Tyrion had the conversation with Sansa, you kind of had the sense of she is playing the long game, too. It's almost like Cersei in a sense.
Yeah.
I was going to say she's a little nicer than Cersei, but she's still she's pulling aspects from Cersei.
She's definitely playing a game of chess with everyone that, because if you look at what she's been through and who she was interacting with, especially Littlefinger. For all of Littlefinger's fault, Littlefinger was very much a man playing chess. Mm-hmm. She is very calculating like Cersei, but I would say at least a little more level-headed.
We think.
We think.
We don't know, because when Jon is out having his dragon date with Daenerys, what's Sansa up to and who's she plotting with?
It's like, what is she, it's like we don't know what she probably thought if she saw her brother flying on a dragon. She's probably like, okay, this is all I need to really just get him out of here.
Right. And so
that's the thing that causes more problems with the Starks, because it was very well stated in the last season that if a war comes between the Starks, Arya's going to back Jon up, and Sansa knows what Arya can do.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and obviously having the Hound there, too, is making for some very interesting moments with Arya as well.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was a good little moment, but it just goes back to overall with the episode that they came back and you saw the connections being made and just, the characters finally meeting that haven't seen each other in a while, and obviously with the Jon Snow parentage getting finally unveiled.
And the thing I love about that, and I didn't realize this at first, and I can't take credit for discovering this, I read this online. I love the little bit of circular closure, because when he finds out who his parents are, and Rather has one of the best reactions I think he could have ever had. I know you and I, Ken, when we were watching it, we were convinced he was going to punch Sam in the face.
Yeah.
Like, he was just like that, floored and flabbergasted. No, the thing I know that a lot of people noticed that I didn't notice is when he found that out.
He was next to his father's statue.
Yeah, and he was next to the statue of his father. And in season 1, what was it, episode 1?
It was episode 2, right before Jon left for the wall. He's like, is my mother alive? Does she know where I am? And Ned just looks at him and
says, no, the next time we meet, you will find out your parentage. And when's the next time they meet? He finds out his parentage.
Right. I mean, to just sum up the episode, they came back very strong. They tied up some loose ends. They kind of gave some footnotes for what's going to happen down the road.
Yeah.
Because obviously with the Night King progressing forward, and we all know the Battle of Winterfell is going to be Avengers Endgame weekend.
Mm-hmm. And we should know that it will be the shortest episode of the season. Next week is going to be 58 minutes, and then they only get longer from there.
I think it's 60 for Battle of Winterfell.
I agree.
60 minutes.
No, yeah.
And that's why I'm really thinking next week is going to end.
Yeah.
Night King's army's there. Their army is ready to fight.
Right.
60 minutes of just straight up, okay, armies are here, no build up, let's go.
Right. That makes the most sense because the thing they've said, even before the season started, is it's the longest battle committed to film in history. Yeah. That only makes sense if you just, you finish next week's episode with, like you said, the shot of the hoof hitting the floor and cut to the credits. Next week, charge.
Yeah. And it's going to be an exciting time to be watching. But definitely let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts on Game of Thrones this week? We gave you ours, but we definitely want to hear yours. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and there is some big trailer news coming out this weekend. Pad, take it away.
Well, of course, everyone's been eagerly anticipating the release of the first Star Wars trailer for Episode 9, and getting a title for Episode 9 for that matter. And of course, over the weekend, there was Star Wars Celebration taking place in Chicago, Illinois. Now, for those who don't know, Star Wars Celebration is a convention put on by the folks at Lucasfilm and Disney, where it is the biggest gathering of Star Wars fans on the planet, bar none. And you can literally run into anyone at this celebration. I mean, you can run into voice actors from the various cartoons or video games to actors and actresses from the films and TV series. And it's really if you're a Star Wars fan, it is the go-to place, for news and stuff upcoming with the series as a whole. So of course, Friday was the first full day of the convention. Thursday there was a little bit of a half day kind of teaser. Here's what's coming. Friday was the first full day, and Friday early afternoon we had a panel titled Episode 9. Everyone kind of figured, all right, if they're going to do it anywhere, they're going to do it here. Right. Kind of kick the whole thing off. And sure enough, they did. Now, before we get into it, we are talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen the trailer, pause, go watch it, come on back. In 3, 2, 1, what did you guys think?
I liked it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, I will say I was one of the people who was disappointed with The Last Jedi, and I was kind of like, all right, the bar's low for Episode 9. And then I saw the trailer, and I'm like, I forgot how much I love Star Wars.
Yeah, that was kind of the case for a lot of people where, like, they might have, they were on various fences for when it came to Last Jedi. I loved it, hate it. There were some people who were like, all right, I'm a little tired of it. I'm a little, worn out of it. That trailer dropped and like, all right, I love it again. Let's go.
Yeah, it just had that old school feel to it that it was Star Wars. And I know the Last Jedi movie is so polarizing with fans. Mm-hmm. Either you love it or you absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And me, I loved it. I had no issue with it. I know they took some chances that didn't really mesh well with, I guess, some previous setups they'd done. But, overall, I loved it.
I was just like, my overall opinion was, I loved it, except for when I hated it. There's some stuff that was just, in my opinion, I thought it was so dumb and stupid, a poor choice. But then at the other end, there's like the exact opposite. There was choices like that looked so cool, and like the fight scenes were amazing in it.
Right.
But it was just like, so overall, I guess that's all, without being dead horse. Last Jedi for me was just meh.
Right. So, of course, the thing we did learn that wasn't in this trailer was this film is taking place at least a year, if not a couple of years after the Last Jedi. So we're not getting like
I was going to say, I think it was IGN, but this was like a while ago. That could have changed it. It was just JJ, I think, said it takes place a year, but that could change.
All I know is it's not doing a Last Jedi and starting 30 seconds after the last one ended.
That was a little annoying.
Yeah, so there is some time passage, but the trailer opens and there's some heavy breathing, and it opens to Rey on a planet. Now this is filmed in the country of Jordan, so it's a desert-looking environment. Not really sure where this is. If this is maybe Tatooine or some other desert planet.
So we won't find Darth Vader's ghost here.
You never know. It is Star Wars. So it opens up and she's kind of sweating, kind of heavy breathing, much in the same way you saw in The Force Awakens first teaser trailer, where it was John Boyega popping up and just sweating and heavy breathing. She turns around and gets ready to sprint, almost like an Olympic runner. She ignites her lightsaber, which I should know is Anakin's lightsaber, the one that was destroyed, split in half at the end of the last one, confusing me even more.
Yeah, I was really thrown off of it. Like, did that thing just get ripped in half?
Yeah, no, it did.
So, it was rather violently ripped in half.
Yeah, like it's presumably like beyond repair ripped in half, but
Well, one thing I not to jump into here too much, but one thing I noticed with this and another moment in the trailer is it looks like they're almost retconning some moments. The lightsaber is one, and Kylo Ren's helmet is another.
Well, the Kylo Ren helmet thing is just it's being rebuilt.
Okay.
Like, a lot of people are thinking that the helmet is so much a representation of his dark side that you look at The Last Jedi when he destroyed the thing in the elevator, and for the large part of that movie, he was kind of like back and forth tugging it. Was he good? Was he bad? And you think back to The Force Awakens, where he had the thing on for a majority of the movie. It wasn't until maybe the last third of the movie he took it off.
Yeah.
And for the majority of that movie, he was pissed off and he was angry and he was evil. So a lot of people think that, okay, his time of like tugging back and forth, am I good, am I evil? That's a sign of, no, we know where he stands.
He's supreme leader now. He's like, I am committed to this. I'm going to finish what my grandfather started.
Yeah. So, you get back to the trailer and she's getting ready to run, and there's a voiceover of Luke. And this is kind of the first thing I picked up on, and the first interesting thing I think with the trailer, where he says, we have passed on all we know. Not I, we. I'm
going with Yoda's ghost and Luke's ghost were teaching her. I would also like to think maybe we'll get a Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi ghost that help teach her, but I can definitely see being Luke and Yoda. Yeah, no, those are the ones that I will bank on. They are that's probably what it means. We have touched.
Yeah, it was known that Mark Hamill was going to portray Luke Skywalker in this movie. Long before this trailer ever came out. He was contracted for 3 movies. He's doing 3 movies, so we all knew that Mark Hamill was going to be a Force ghost in this movie. But the interesting thing to me, like I said, is just we have passed on all we know. Okay, that could get interesting. So you go from there, and then it's a shot of a TIE interceptor kind of chasing down towards her. We presume Kylo Ren is at the helm, but they don't show who it is. They just show the gloves. You presume it's him, but you don't know. And Rey does what Daisy Ridley said is the most badass moment of the trailer, and I have to agree with her. She backflips over the thing as it's flying towards her at full brake.
1000%, yeah. That was such a cool shot.
I'm hoping when the movie comes, when she does the backflip, I'm hoping she cuts one of the wings off. Yeah. And it's okay, that's just awesome.
So then it cuts into what we've seen in the last couple movies, where it's sweeping shots with some familiar John Williams music from previous Star Wars films. You see a shot of a ship flying through a new planet, can't really tell what it is. Then you eventually cut to our first look at Billy D. Williams reprising his role finally as Lando Calrissian.
Hello, what have we here?
Given his trademark Billy D. laugh, and I want to note the other interesting thing: he's wearing the same outfit that Donald Glover wore as Lando in Solo, a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it was such a cool Easter egg to see in there. Like it was just that whole moment where Lando was finally back in the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously with everything that happened in Force Awakens, it only felt right.
Yeah.
To see him
we
back
still
there.
we still have Chewie in the co-pilot seat.
Yep.
Right.
That's what also really matters. We still got Chewie there.
Say before that, there's a shot of Kylo Ren in a forest where it's almost got a Gotham red tinge to it, and there's
some poor rebel is fighting him.
Yeah, they're fighting so many.
Is fighting Kylo Ren really even what the rebel was doing, or is it just kind of getting owned by Kylo Ren, a better way to put it?
I don't think it was either of those. I think that Rebel was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Kylo Ren was just running like a running back in the NFL and broke through the line, and that guy just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He runs into the guy, and it's not even his lightsaber itself. It's one of the guards on the side. Hits him, he picks him up and like choke slams him to the ground like we're watching a wrestling match.
Right. It was just a very cool action scene to see happen. And I like the lighting with it too.
Yeah.
Because you typically see the red kind of float around the dark side a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like, for example, with the Defenders universe and how each of the Marvel characters had their own special lighting in that, so to speak. But I just thought it was just a very cool touch that they did for that.
Which I'm kind of hoping that there is more of like, okay, Kylo Ren and Rey fighting just regular people instead of fighting each other all the time. Because I think that's what added to Rogue One, the hallway scene at the end of the movie being so intense was, okay, you just saw Darth Vader, you just saw what happens when Darth Vader fights non-Jedi people. Yeah. It's intense.
So we then cut to a shot again in the country of Jordan. So whatever planet Rey is on training, we see a skiff flying through where Poe, Finn, C-3POs are on this skiff, and C-3PO is clutching for darn dear life. The funniest scene I think I've seen out of the whole trailer. And then it cuts to another shot where a spaceship is kind of crashing through the sky. A lot of people are thinking this might be Cloud City because there's the color of it looks the same, and it kind of looks the same. It's a quick blink and you miss it shot, but just going off the coloring and kind of the shape, you quickly glimpse. A lot of people are thinking maybe it's Cloud City from Empire Strikes Back. Of course, Lando being back in the movie, it's entirely possible he might have gotten it back. We don't know.
Right.
Then you cut to our first look at Princess Leia, of course played by Carrie Fisher, where she's hugging Rey, and she's holding a medal that was given to both Han and Luke, not Chewie, at the end of Star Wars A New Hope. Now, the thing we should know is this is not CGI Leia. This is unused footage or footage that was left on the cutting room floor from The Force Awakens. One of the things said almost immediately at the panel was by J.J. Abrams was they never once considered using CGI Leia like they did in Rogue One. From the very beginning, they knew if they were going to do anything with her, they weren't going to write her out or write her death off screen. They were going to handle whatever her fate is, because they haven't said live, die, whatever on the screen. But she will be in the film, and it is footage unused from the first film of The Force Awakens. It then cuts to a beachfront looking down on a cliff with a giant wreckage in the water, and it kind of took me a couple viewings to figure out what it was, and some people pointing it out online. What we see is the laser focus beam, or part of it anyway, of the second Death Star.
Are we sure it's
really
the second one?
Yeah, because a lot of people are thinking it's the second one, it's Endor, because if it was the first one, there'd be a lot more trees around it, because you think of Yavin and it was like tall, forested and all that, and this a lot, but and plus just the size of the darn thing. So, which leading a lot of people to that, and then there's the sign. There's a voiceover again by Mark Hamill saying no one has ever really gone, and followed by the biggest plot twist in the last 30 years. Fight me on this one. The cackle of Emperor Palpatine.
Did not expect that.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't either, and that's gonna mean like the biggest thing is like, all three generations all three trilogies, original, prequel, and sequel, he has been the mastermind behind everything that's gone wrong for the galaxy. Because I have a feeling If it's the Emperor coming back, he's not going to be a little, oh yeah, he's just in like one scene for fun. No. He is probably going to reveal that it's like, I was the one who manipulated Snoke into doing it. It's like, he's going to have some huge role that you're like, oh,
yeah. Because the thing of it is JJ said in interviews after the panel was over that he worked with George Lucas on this script, that they wanted to bring it to a kind of final conclusion to this overarching 9-movie story and kind of put a bow on the end of the story. And what better way to close it than with the biggest bad of them all, Palpatine. How he's alive, if he's alive, we don't know.
Well, that's the one cool thing about this is obviously with Episode 9, it's the final saga of the Skywalker, family.
Yeah.
And how they're going to just tie everything together. Yeah, Palpatine makes a lot of sense. I'm just surprised that they were going to do it. But then again, looking at it long term, you want to tie in the 9 films together. What other way were you going to do it unless they somehow resurrected Vader to come back, which would have been weird.
Yeah,
but
I don't think I would have been happy with that.
No, that'd have been real weird.
That would have just been like, okay, why are you bringing him back, and why are you bringing him back evil?
Right, and I know there's a lot of people online who read some of the old Star Wars books and comics are saying, oh, they're going to do Dark Empire, which for those who don't know, Dark Empire was comic line where it was set well after Return of the Jedi, where come to find out the Emperor had cloned himself and was back to life. I don't think they're going to go that route. I think if they go any route, they'll use something that has been set up and established in the canon. That's the right now series finale. Of course, in a little while, we'll get to that later. It won't be the series finale. The final episode of season 6 of the Clone Wars, where Yoda runs into the quote unquote ghost of one of the previous dark side users by the name of Bane, who was ironically voiced by Mark Hamill. He was there in kind of like a ghost spectral smoky looking form.
It was like an imprint of
where it was an imprint of himself, but he also retained his memories and could speak on the past. I think if they do anything, it might be something to that effect.
And that's the thing though, is like, because from what I remember, I thought in the new canon, like, I thought Darth Bane was, like, in the Clone Wars was just, like, an imprint. He wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was made clear the dark side cannot return like Jedi do as Force Ghosts, which I thought meant that opens the way to, if the Emperor is back, it's actually him.
Right. And let's be honest. The Emperor was into all sorts of weird stuff and exploring every avenue he could get his grubby little hands on. If there was going to be a person in this universe that could figure out a way to cheat death the non-Jedi way, it's going to be this guy.
You could say it's rather unnatural.
Yeah.
He would try.
Yeah. No, it definitely is.
You could definitely say it, but we were just tying back into, though, this is what makes Star Wars so interesting, is just, how the groundwork they've set up, and now 9 films deep now.
Mm-hmm.
Over 40 years.
Yeah.
Right, of just how they've established this superhero saga, or space saga, should I say. Well, you could say they're superheroes, too, to a degree. There's certain aspects of there.
Yeah.
But just to see how they've built this franchise up and just the saga that's it's been into, and just where they could go with the ending. It's still anybody's guess.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because we don't know if that's just old footage that they just decided to splice in with Palpatine's laugh.
No.
But I think he's in the film.
He's in the film because the thing that, and you can go back on the Star Wars YouTube page, because the awesome thing they do is when a panel is done, a couple hours afterwards, they will upload that entire panel because they stream them onto YouTube, and you can go back and watch the panel right after this panel ended, or the trailer ended, and the fans are cheering and going nuts. The lights come up, and who's standing there? Ian McDiarmid, who played the Emperor for movies 6, 1, 2, and 3.
Wow.
He didn't play him in 5, although now he is because of editing, in modern day. But he showed up after the trailer had ended, and the fans are going nuts and going crazy, and then in his Emperor voice, he says, "Roll it again." They don't bring that man out if he's not in the movie.
Right. And that's a very good point. Like I said, you are the Star Wars aficionado for this.
Right.
So overall thoughts on the trailer pad?
I was very excited for episode 9 as it was, of the bookend of the Skywalker saga. How are they going to do this? How is it going to go out? Where's it going to go? Did not expect at all to hear Emperor Palpatine's cackle again. Very happy to hear it. Didn't expect it.
I really love the trailer. Like I said, after Last Jedi, I was very much like, all right, what the heck's episode 9 going to do? Is it going to be able to, make the trilogy whole that I'll actually enjoy it? And then I watched the trailer, and I'm just like, okay, can this movie come out sooner?
I'll say people were so excited for this trailer that I'm not kidding. As soon as the trailer dropped, Twitter broke. Like
I believe it.
Like I was.
Oh, my phone blew up, and I'm not even on Twitter, and it's like I'm at work at my desk, and next thing I know, I see my phone flashing next to me, and everyone's like, "Yo, have you seen the trailer?" And it's like, okay, give me a sec, people, I'm working.
Like I saw the trailer, went to Twitter to kind of see what everyone else was saying. Like the tweets on my phone wouldn't refresh. Like it said, "Oh, there's been an error. Tap to retry." Like, and it was going on for maybe a solid 5 minutes.
Well, like we've discussed on the show, there's 2 movies this year, and you can debate it. They're the most anticipated films of 2019. Avengers Endgame and Episode 9.
Man,
I was saying it was going to be Endgame, but and now it's literally after the trailer dropped, I'm like, I don't know.
No, I was in the same boat.
I don't know if I have a clear pick.
I'm in the same boat where if you'd asked me a week ago today, I would have said, you go, hey, what's the most anticipated movie of 2019? Easy answer for me, Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
We want to find out what happens and everything else. After that trailer dropped, and don't get me wrong, before, a week ago, it was already a very highly anticipated movie, but it was a clear number 1, clear number 2. But when you drop that trailer and you get to the end and you hear the Emperor's Palpatine, that kind of, for me, kind of bumped it into, man, it's more close than we think. I don't know.
Right. And this is just a cool thing to have a debate about, because with Avengers tying up their 10-year run now with Marvel Studios, and 22 films, I think? 21 films?
21, 22, yeah.
And now you have Star Wars tying up their 9-film, 40-year legacy.
Mm-hmm.
This is just such a cool time to be a fan of both fandoms that this debate is actually a real one. Like, which one is more excitable, Avengers Endgame or Episode 9? And with 9, the trailer for this just reminded me so much of Force Awakens, and what reminded me of why I actually like Star Wars. Because I'm not the biggest fan of Star Wars. I do like it, but I'm not as big a fan as Padawan J. But I did get the sense of, okay, they're going back to basics, where you're building the saga, you're having the great moments, and just everything that just resonates Star Wars and why it so connects to fans. Just the space saga that has just set the groundwork for so many other fandoms to grow from. I mean, let's be honest. You see a lot of influences from Star Wars in film, TV, comics. I mean, not even connecting back and forth to them. But this is just one of those you can see influences from George Lucas's epic just resonate through pop culture. And this trailer just reminded me of it without giving everything away. Like, this isn't the first 20 minutes that you're going to see of the film, and we're not going to spoil anything. Like Avengers Endgame trailer
was. To be honest, that's the thing about the trailer. It's like, it didn't really even hint at what the storyline's going to be for the movie, and it just got me so pumped for it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm thinking with the name Rise of Skywalker, they are going to be tying it more into Luke's family.
That could be.
And I have my unofficial ODPH guess is that battle scene that we see is on Tatooine.
Okay.
That is my guess, because they're going to just bring it back full circle.
That's where the legacy started, and it's where it ends.
And then I'm also wondering if they're going to retcon Rey's parentage.
It could be.
And I think they're going to tie that in.
That's like one of my big things. I hope they do that, and it can be very easy to do. It's like she learns who her real parents are, and it's like, well, Kylo told me they were nobody, and it's like, yeah, the devil lies, and it's like, okay, Kylo's like, oh, you actually come from like a very powerful Jedi family or something. It's like you're important. I don't want you to know that when I'm trying to convert you into the dark side. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to like beat you down and say, yeah, your parents were no one.
Right. It's just so many intricate things that are going on to tie in the 40 years. I mean, from seeing Lando fly the Millennium Falcon to Rey just absolutely doing one of the coolest action scenes you're going to see this year.
Oh, yeah.
And everything in between, and tying into the Emperor's Laugh to sign off on it. The trailer for The Rise of Skywalker was great. We all said it was, but let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Drop us a line. Let us know what you think of the latest Star Wars trailer. We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
2, 3, 4. Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to talk about the big news that dropped involving Disney. Now, this wasn't the Disney buying Fox deal.
Nope, we already knew that.
There's another deal that Disney did that they've officially announced details for, that's definitely going to be a game changer.
Let's say shots fired across the streaming universe.
Pat, break it down for us.
So Disney had a shareholder conference call, I believe it was on Thursday last week, where, they have these things a couple times a year. This one in particular was of very much interest to a lot of people because this was going to be the first opportunity where they would kind of start to reveal some details about what would be coming to the Disney Plus streaming service. And boy, did they give some details that really just shocked the entire internet. So, of course, the big important information is that it is launching on November 12th this year. Now, there are some different dates overseas, so you have to keep an eye out for when the site launches and when it's going to launch in your area, because it's going to be launching out, kind of rolling out across, they're not going to launch it for the entire planet at once. That'd crash a lot of servers. But, for the United States, it's going to launch November 12th and be $6.99. It will be ad-free. I know that was a lot of questions people were having because with them taking over a controlling interest in Hulu, would they go the Hulu route and there'd be ads in it? No. It will be available as of right now on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, computer, smart TV, Roku devices, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and Chromecast. Once something gets added onto the service, it will not be taken down. So they're not going to go the Netflix route where, I immediately to my mind come the older James Bond movies where I want to say it was 2 months or so ago, they added like 11 or 12 James Bond movies from Sean Connery all the way up to Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan. They were there for 2 months. Now they're gone. They're not going to be doing that. Once something gets added, so, whenever, Avengers Infinity War gets on there, once Avengers Infinity War is on there, ain't coming off.
Mm-hmm.
The content will be able to be downloaded and watched anywhere. I know this is going to be a big thing for parents, because once they start adding a lot of kids stuff, it's going to be big for parents. If you're on a long car trip, even for us is, we're going down to Comic-Con, we're going on a vacation with the family or friends. This will be good. You can, download a movie, download a show and watch it on the go. Features such as behind the scenes footage and other extras you would find on your typical Blu-ray or DVD disc will be available. By the end of the first year, you will have more than 7,500 TV episodes and 500 movies.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. And they're going to, of course, be adding more. Movies going forward will be added after their theatrical run is over. Now, I'm not a movie aficionado. I don't know how that works. But you'll find out when they're getting added on there, much in the same way Netflix does it. Their signature collection, quote-unquote, of animated films will be available day one. That's going to be 13 classic Disney animated films. 100 Disney Channel original movies will be available day one. I'm gonna guess that's a lot of like the late 90s, early to mid 2000s ones. So I'm definitely excited for some of those. Every Pixar film except Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, and Coco will be available on day one. Those will be added at a later date just because of streaming rights and contracts and everything else.
Okay.
Select Marvel films will be available on day one, but eventually the whole Marvel library will be added on there. And like I said before, once something comes out in theaters and then it ends its theatrical run, it's going to get added right to it. The Falcon and Winter Soldier series, which had been kind of rumored and not officially confirmed, was finally confirmed with Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie returning to play Winter Soldier and Falcon respectively. The Wanda Vision series was confirmed with both actress and actor returning to play the role, the series being called WandaVision, one word. The first Marvel What If episode, which I know we talked about a couple of weeks ago, was revealed. The first episode of Marvel's What If, which, like we said before, it's kind of the what would have happened or what could have happened in the Marvel universe. They're going very interesting, the first episode. I want to get your guys' thought on this. The first episode will be what if Peggy Carter became a super soldier and if Steve Rogers stayed a scrawny kid?
I'm very interested with that. I'm assuming Haley Atwell is going to be voicing Peggy Carter?
Presumably. Nothing was officially confirmed or denied, but presumably. If you got all the big actors and actresses coming back for the other shows, presumably she's going to be in it.
I don't know. Like that sounds fun. I don't, the whole concept of that show isn't really like jumping at me as something I want to see.
Well, what if, to just give our listeners just a quick update over that, it always just takes scenarios from Marvel Comics and just kind of flips it a 180. So you'll see down the road they're going to just take different elements. Like, for example, what if Captain America had the Infinity Gauntlet instead of Thanos? What if the X-Men never defeated the Dark Phoenix? You're going to have like situations like that come about. So this one coming out the gate I think is kind of interesting, but it's kind of I don't want to say a safer story, but it's just kind of like a minor a minor switch of a storyline, and then just see where it goes from there.
Right. Also, you have the Loki series confirmed with Tom Hiddleston returning. From everything I've kind of heard about this is not going to be a present-day thing. This is going to be kind of like a young Loki with Tom Hiddleston narrating, possibly showing up at certain points. We'll find out. We'll see. All Star Wars films will be available within the first year. Also going along with Star Wars, the Jon Favreau television series, The Mandalorian, will be available at launch. They will have a live-action Lady and the Tramp movie available at launch. And this is kind of the big one that shocked a lot of people. The first 30 seasons of The Simpsons will be available from day one. And this shocked a lot of people because up to this point, they've never been available online anywhere. Hulu has had the present season for when the episode airs, but then after a while, it kind of goes away. This is the first time that all 30 seasons will be available anywhere.
Braga, your thoughts on this?
Well, to have 30 seasons of a single TV show is intense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, my dad has said repeatedly, he remembers when the first ads appeared for The Simpsons. And it's like, I've never seen it. So it's like, oh, this is like the best time. Like, if you were going to watch a show, that's it. Yeah,
and there's a great video the folks behind The Simpsons did with, of course, all the voice actors and actresses doing that they played during the conference call, the shareholders meeting, whatever you want to call it, that you can find online that I highly recommend you go out and find. It's an absolute riot. There's a statue of Bob Iger in the front yard. There's a statue of Darth Vader in the front yard with them, with Homer trying to get the family to put on mouse ears, and none of them want to do it.
And as for the other show you mentioned, I didn't initially like the idea of having to subscribe to another streaming service, but everything I've heard and seen about The Mandalorian is just like, okay, this thing is $7 a month. We're getting a really cool Star Wars show that takes more of a solo aspect of like, you see a different side of the universe. You kind of see like the seedy underbelly.
Yeah.
And it's also like, just the more I think of it, it's like, okay, $7 a month, you get all of this stuff from Disney. It's like,
they're adding a bunch of stuff from the National Geographic Channel. Essentially anything Disney has ever owned, like amongst all their properties, the Fox stuff, their stuff, Marvel, Lucasfilm, a lot of it's going to be there, just to have that ability to like, oh, I want to go watch Rescuers Down Under. All right, let's go do that. Oh, I want to go watch, rewatch Boy Meets World for the first time because, it's been a while since I've seen the series. Oh, I want to go ahead and do that.
I want to go rewatch the tragedy that was the Black Cauldron. Okay, let's go do this because I hate myself.
No, yeah, I mean, you got to figure all of the, the 90s cartoons that a lot of us grew up on coming home from school and seeing, the original DuckTales, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Aladdin. A lot of it's going to be on there. I mean, you also had a Hawkeye series with starring Jeremy Renner announced where, Ken, you want to talk about this one? I know you were excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one. If it's the storyline I think they're going to do, and that's the Matt Fraction run.
Yeah.
That this is going to be a self-contained story. It's going to involve Kate Bishop, so we're going to see her get introduced to the MCU. If you know anything about her character, she does assume the mantle of Hawkeye down the road. She's tied to the group Young Avengers, which I am very interested to see if that's the route they're going to go with this.
Right.
But I'm super excited to see this. I'm hoping it's the Fraction run. It could be something different. And obviously everything they're doing with the MCU on here, the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, and where they're going to go with that, Sebastian Stan is playing and Anthony Mackie are resuming their roles. I have a feeling, and I don't want to go too spoilery with this is going to be directly falling out from Avengers Endgame.
That very much could be.
And I have this odd suspicion, and this is my unofficial ODPH opinion on this, that they're going to be either fighting or assuming the mantle of Captain America.
I just want them trying to fit in the same car together, like that you saw in what was it, Civil War?
Yeah, it's like, can you move your seat up?
No. I just want more banter like that.
Oh, you're definitely going to see it, and I have a feeling it's going to be something like that. I mean,
it's like it will be a fun show. It's like because I just feel like if they haven't really learned to like be bros yet, it could just be very entertaining. Like that's even a good thing. It's like a good idea for like an arc. It's like okay, they actually are like countering each other. If they are trying to be like the next Captain America, it's like they both could have different ideas as to how they want to do it because they both know Cap at different points in Cap's life. It's like Bucky knows him from when they were kids.
Yeah.
Whereas Falcon knows him only as Captain
America. The guy
America.
who can run faster than him.
Right, and it's just interesting to see if
Don't you say it. Don't you say it on your left.
Yeah. It's just going to be interesting to see if that's the route they go with it.
Yeah.
Because we don't know exactly what's going to happen after Endgame.
Right.
Because everything is kind of speculation right now. I mean, especially with WandaVision, which I'm more interested to see because I know Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are going to be resuming the roles.
Mm-hmm.
And in the comics, they have a very unique history.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure where they're going to go in relation to comics.
Well, one of the things they did say during this whole announcement extravaganza was that the Marvel stuff that comes out on this series, and this is why I say this whole thing was a shot across the bow of every major streaming service, this stuff will have an impact on the Marvel Cinematic Universe at large and in Phase 4. So it's going to be more than what and this is no disrespect to the Netflix folks. I enjoyed those shows. They were very good. It's going to be more than just hey, do you remember the incident in New York?
Oh, the incident? That's what we're calling it now? Giant aliens came through? Yeah, the incident.
5 minutes later. Remember the incident?
Yeah, as long as it's not doing
Where were you during the incident?
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's what I refer to it as. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1. That, hey, we're in the Avengers. Hey, you know about the incident. Hey.
Hey, we're cleaning up London after the Dark World incident.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on.
It's like we get the tie-in, and as long as it's connected, which, I mean, Marvel does an amazing job doing. So, but as long as it's progressing the story moving forward, because in between all the phases going on, and we haven't really kind of delved into post-Avengers Endgame. We'll be doing that in a couple weeks. This is a good segue for the MCU to build in between. Because, like we said, we know about the shows coming out. We know about Falcon and Winter Soldier. We know about WandaVision.
Yep.
Loki, I have a feeling, is going to be named Journey into Mystery before it's all said and done.
Right.
And that's going to be a throwback to the original Thor comic.
Right.
Because if that's going to be set like as a prequel, it's just going to be a fun story to do.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. And with Hawkeye, like I said, I'm really hoping they do the fraction run and putting this energy out in the world.
I would say, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, Hawkeye is like one of the most underused Avengers. Like, he's such a cool guy. It's like, okay, he's the guy who runs around with a bow and arrow. He's also like the realist of the group, in my opinion, because he's just like especially in Age of Ultron, it's like, the city is flying. The city is flying. There's killer robots. And I'm fighting him with a bow and arrow. This doesn't make sense.
I think they could have a lot of fun with the Loki series. I think if they go like a kind of in the past, he's telling stories across, because he's been around for a while. I think they can have some fun with it if maybe he shows up in significant times in history and kind of antics ensue, so maybe the French Revolution or, other just major milestones in history that like you can just sit there and go, oh, that's this point in history. Like you don't have to do any research. Like you could just sit there and see the American Revolution, World War I, World War II, just like major points in history and just kind of like how much fun and how much mess can he get into?
Well, that's, like I said, that's going to be an interesting thing. They can go different routes. And I mean, like I said, especially now, getting back to what I was saying about Hawkeye, that if they do the fraction run, it's going to be self-contained. I mean, that could be a kickoff for something else if they want to go the Young Avengers route.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to do that. I have a tendency to think that they won't, but it also depends on what happens in WandaVision too.
Yep.
That I'm just going to kind of leave it there, and I'm not going to delve into that topic.
I would say I think we have to see both the series, like that one and the Hawkeye one, before we see, okay, are you going Young Avengers route?
And the other thing that was kind of mentioned, I want to say it was during Star Wars Celebration, which I think is kind of the hint at how Disney is going to do things with their TV series coming out on this platform going forward, is it was said that The Mandalorian will be coming out one episode, I think a week. So they're not going to be going the Netflix route and just dropping the whole thing all at once.
Which, in a way, I've kind of grown to like that a little bit. It's like, as much as I love being able to binge stuff, it is also like then you binge it in 2 days. And you're like, okay, now I got to wait.
It's also for me not as easy as it used to be, so I do appreciate the space and time, because I've gotten busy. I got stuff going on. I can't just drop everything and watch a 13-episode show in one day. I do appreciate that. Some last couple things they announced that I found interesting. Of course, there's way more. You can find more online. They did announce a Monsters at Work series is hitting Disney Plus in 2020. This is, of course, a sequel to Monsters, Inc., of course, the well-loved Pixar film. It will be set 6 months after the events of the original film, and it will star John Goodman and Billy Crystal reprising their roles as Mike and Sully.
That's what caught my eye with it when I first saw it. I was like, why are they doing this? And it's like Billy Crystal's coming back, and so is John Goodman. I'm like,
all right,
okay, that could be entertaining.
Because they had the original.
Like, I could almost see it like you have a couple like 30-minute episodes a season, and it's just fun skits. Like it's literally just, hey,
could just be a variety show.
You had a long day at work. It's like, just watch this childish sort of entertainment happen.
Because they had the original. The second movie to come out was a prequel where they were in college. They've never done anything after that original movie, so there's plenty they can do with it.
And I love the original. It's a great movie.
Yeah, they're also working on an Untitled Muppet series. So, Muppets, of course, a long-running, much-beloved series, so we'll see what they do with that. The other thing that it wasn't ever really said, but, people are kind of figuring that there won't be, they're getting a lot of movies. Presumably, there won't be any R-rated content on this because they're going to want to keep it, family-oriented, so... there's a lot of movies they're going to add to this, but where they go with everything else, we'll have to wait and see.
Right, we've talked about in the past too. I have a feeling that they're going to go to Hulu.
Yes.
By the time it's all said and done, that you're going to see the edgier material wind up there.
The other thing I could see is maybe they do eventually add it, but they do a kind of like Netflix, how you can filter what they say.
Right.
Like you can put like a child, you can put like a parent lock on the Deadpool, so your kid can't just put on Deadpool without like a password or something.
Yeah,
they're going to have a lot of different ways to go about it by the time it's all said and done, and especially by the time November rolls around. Look at now, we're talking April, so there's months that they can really fine tune it and whatever they decide to do, because obviously the Fox deal has gone through, so they're going to have a lot more movies and TV shows to really kind of develop and really make this thing into a must-watch. Not that it already wasn't, because as Pat had read off everything involved.
Yeah.
That, especially for the price of $6.99 a month.
Yeah.
Is one of the best deals in town.
And that's like what I said. Like I told you guys that last week. I'm like, I really don't want to do another subscription service. And then you really think about everything you're getting for that price. You're like, okay, I can't justify not doing it.
Right.
If it was like $20 a month,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
For the amount they're going to be putting on there, all the Disney movies, all the Marvel, Lucasfilm, for $7 a month.
And that's like I said, what did is that is when you really think about what Disney, as you said, what Disney has ever owned. It's that's a lot of stuff.
I'll say you think about it, you can get 30 plus movies, just factoring in the Marvel movies and the Star Wars movies. You can get, and presumably the Indiana Jones movies will end up on there. And
because they're Lucasfilm.
They're Lucasfilm, and you can get 30 plus movies at your fingertips for $7.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch, and it's going to be a huge game changer by the time it's all said and done. Yeah. Because this is going to set the bar so high that you really can't go farther with it.
Plus, that also just saves room in say your house or something. It's okay, I don't have. It's oh my gosh, there's all these great Disney movies. Oh, yeah, we got them. We don't have to worry about going to our video library and seeing if we actually have that movie. It's, all right, let's just put it on.
I think it's also great from the aspect that, I like a lot of the Disney animated movies that, I grew up on. Grew up on over the years. The one that I can think of is Rescuers and Rescuers Down Under. To my knowledge, those have never gotten a Blu-ray re-release. I would love to watch those movies, but I don't own a VHS player that works. They've never. I would love to watch those movies because I grew up watching them. They're staples of my childhood. To be able to watch movies like that and anything else I grew up on that just never got a Blu-ray re-release for whatever reason. I'm not ahead of Disney. I'm not behind that decision-making process. To be able to take those movies that we all loved and just kind of go, hey, I want to watch those. It's awesome.
There's so many options to check out Disney Plus. We've given you so many of them that obviously we want to hear what you think. We are obviously very excited here on the panel about it. But hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts on Disney Plus? Are you going to be picking it up first day? We want to know. Hit us up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is George Gatton, and you are listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we got to kick off those one-shots. Pat, what you got?
Well, of course, there's some more interesting news released this past weekend at Star Wars Celebration. The one I was almost as excited for as Episode 9 panel was the panel for the upcoming video game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from the folks at Respawn Entertainment, of course, who've done the Titanfall games. This is going to be an action-adventure game. Now, the thing I should point out, it's being put out by EA, so there's a lot of people already going, I'm real excited for this. It's a action adventure game. It's not a first person shooter.
EA did not develop the game.
Right.
They're just helping to sell it.
They're just putting it out. No multiplayer, no microtransactions.
Yes.
It's all strictly first player, one player, story driven. It is going to start. I'm not 100% sure. It's going to start around the time of Order 66. So when the Jedi are first fallen. falling, and you are going to play a Jedi who, makes it through Order 66 and is trying to live in a galaxy where everything about him, as a person is illegal and will be killed on sight. It's coming out on the 15th of November. You can find a trailer on YouTube, but for being the first Star Wars game on console in like at least 10 or 11 years that is not a first-person shooter and is story-driven, I cannot explain how excited I am.
I think the last one I can think of is the Force Unleashed games.
Yeah.
That's like the only one that comes to mind.
Yeah, like outside that, it's been either nothing or first-person shooters.
And just shout out, those games are amazing still.
No, yeah, but I just for something that's story-driven, I don't got to worry about somebody running at me and killing me in the game. Awesome. Cannot wait. Other thing I want to mention, I haven't gotten to it yet, but it's on my list, and it's a very interesting concept. Of course, we all remember when Netflix put out their Choose Your Own Adventure movie, Bandersnatch, was based off from Black Mirror. They put out another one, not for Black Mirror, though. This is based around Bear Grylls, of course, the famous survivalist and man who does literally anything he can to survive in Wild, and you know the legend. They came out with a series called You vs. Wild, where the description reads, in this interactive series, you'll make key decisions to help Bear Grylls survive, thrive, and complete missions in the harshest environments on Earth. So essentially, this is just you going through, and I guess you come to a point where you got to decide, all right, do I want to ski down this mountain, or do I want to take a wingsuit and go down this mountain? And you make right decisions, and you make wrong decisions, and those right decisions will help you move along in the story. Wrong decisions will kill Bear Grylls. This is currently, it looks like there are 8 episodes in this Choose Your Own Adventure series. They're not long at all. The shortest one is 14 minutes, and the longest one looks like it's 26 minutes. So it's definitely something that I think you can go through and just have some fun with, by yourself or with some family or friends.
Sounds exciting, so definitely something to check out on the streaming service. Brad Guy, what you got?
My one shot isn't really a recommendation, it's more of a follow-up. As you guys know, when we were down at New York Comic Con this past year, we were super excited because there was a Hellboy panel, because there was a Hellboy movie coming out this year. Movie came out last week, and I wanted to do a follow-up on it. And it is probably going to be the biggest disappointment of the year in my books for the movies that I go to see. It was choppy, the storytelling was bad. The acting was on par. It was very good. I love David Harbour.
Yeah, Harbour was
Hellboy.
good. Harbour was good as Hellboy.
Awesome. But the story was just bad. The CG was awful at certain points.
Yeah.
Like, you're just sitting there, you're like, okay, I feel like I'm watching a poorly rendered video game.
Yeah.
And it was so disappointing to see the movie go that way. And it's just because I was so psyched for it. The comics are awesome. And it's just like to watch this movie. It's like, if you're a Hellboy fan, stick to the Del Toro movies. Save yourself the money. That's, I guess, what I want to say, in my opinion. Or if you disagree with me, you can go make your own assumption of the movie. I was not happy with how the movie came out.
Yeah, the story's definitely all over the place. It's jumpy. They make some questionable decisions, in my opinion. I remember when we were at the panel, one thing David Harbour said is they wanted to keep things practical. So they did a lot of practical effects and practical this, practical that, but they did CGI where they had to. And there's one scene in the movie, I won't go into it in case you want to go see the movie. These guys know what I'm talking about, but there's one scene in the movie where, okay, if you did a practical effects for a lot of the movie, which left some money left over for special effects, where was that money for that scene?
I agree.
It's one of the scenes, Brad Guy talked about in particular where the CGI was just bad.
Yeah, it was one of those disappointing things because, like we said, we've been really excited about going to see this movie since the New York Comic Con panel.
Because the sizzle trailer they showed that never made it out into the public, at least officially, looked awesome. And it looked really good.
We were at the panel, like, all of us were just hyped for it. It's like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed like the movie script was kind of just jumping all over the place. Like, especially if you're not too familiar with Hellboy.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you would have been extremely lost at points.
Yeah.
At points. David Harbour was great as Hellboy.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing against him or the cast. But it just seemed like the story was jumping, and there was a couple moments where the CGI was just, trying to get away from the Del Toro vision, and it just seemed like they were trying too hard.
Yeah.
Especially when it came to, like, the one final thought on it is, since it is R-rated, I think the biggest one they were doing from the Del Toros is like, oh, we're going to be the R-rated Hellboy, and there were just times I think they were just excessively killing people in the most violent ways possible, because it's like, they're trying to be a gritty movie, and that didn't help the story, because you're just, like, spending 5 minutes watching people die, and you're just like, okay, we get it. Bad things are happening. Let's move on here.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to make your own decision with that. But for us, we're a little disappointed with the Hellboy movie. I don't know if they're going to try even doing a sequel after this. I know it's been getting a lot of bad reviews across the board.
I don't even know how it's doing at the box office.
Not well. Over the weekend, it was projected to make somewhere in the neighborhood of $16 to $21 million. It didn't even make $12 million.
Oh,
so I know I talked to one friend who lives out in Los Angeles who, big Hellboy fan. He went to see the movie and he came out of it. He's kind of on the same boat as us. Wasn't that great? Enjoyed the performances by the actors and actresses, but he said it's probably the most disappointing thing about it is that it sets up a lot for down the road that we will likely never see.
Right. So that's our opinion of that. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. If you've seen the movie, let us know what you think of it. We definitely want to hear about that. So let me close out the show with talking about one of my favorite shows out right now, and that's Cloak and Dagger on Freeform. Now, I'm not going to get into too much spoilers about the show, but I'm saying this season, they do not have a sophomore slump by any stretch of the imagination. They're dealing with a lot more of realistic problems and real life problems, not so much involving the supernatural, but there still is that element there. And this past week's episode was more or less the origin of mayhem, and Emma Lahana is absolutely crushing it this season. I always speak the praises of Olivia Holt because I think she's really taken the character of Dagger and made it her own and just added something to it that I haven't really seen too much in the comics. But Lahana's portrayal of mayhem and the whole reveal, because this was more or less the origin episode, is truly remarkable. And what she's doing on the show, she's absolutely crushing it. And without going, like I said, into too many details, you see just a simple mission of search and rescue, so to speak, go completely left field. And you're now starting to see Cloak, played by Aubrey Joseph, who's emerging with his powers along the lines of the comic. And he does two things that are very comic related. He does an absorption, which if you know anything about the character, you know how Cloak does that, which is the first time we've really seen that. You saw that last season with Detective Connors. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time you've seen what happens when he absorbs somebody and what goes on inside the Dark Force generation that he does. The other one that you've seen, which is a very minor spoiler, but this isn't, I don't even consider the spoiler if you know the character. You start seeing him get weak by using his powers, and you kind of see him balance out when he's next to Dagger. This is a throw to the comics. So overall, the episode was great. One of the best ones I've seen thus far. I absolutely love the performance by Emma Lahana. She absolutely crushed it this week, along with Joseph and Holt too. I cannot speak enough good things about this show. It's on Freeform Thursday nights. Check your local listings. Get on board. It's a great show, MCU related. Enough said. That's all we got for this week. So for Brad Guy Signal,
I'll see you around.
For Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, hashtag ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.